It's time!
Content in this video may trigger you if you're a pansy, a feminist, soy boy, a white knight. So if you require a safe space and you don't know the real definition of tolerance, I suggest that you turn off this video and go find Drag Queen Story Hour somewhere. You might enjoy that better.
All right, guys, joining me is my man, Glenn Lawrence. He's the Manosphere's resident Hollywood heartthrob, and he's also the co-host of the Dragon Ship podcast with RP Thor, and he also does all of the producing for Apex Mindset now. Now he makes videos on YouTube, and a lot of his videos are, he calls them correction videos.
I got Glenn Lawrence with me here today, too.
Glenn, we love Glenn.
The only white man I know on colorful. Welcome, Glenn Lawrence.
Mr. Glenn Lawrence. There he is, Mr. Handsome, Mr. Hollywood.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Glenn Lawrence, and I'm back with another one. So today I actually is sitting down with Paula Wright. And in this video, you're going to hear us talking about everything from comedy, acting, to feminism, transgenderism, social issues, and her thoughts on the red pill. Yeah, she's an evolutionary psychologist, a comedian, an actress, and, well, a very opinionated voice on Twitter. She knows how to ruffle some feathers, apparently, with her tweets, as she'll tell you herself. So enjoy the video, give her a like and a subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell for me and like and subscribe to my channel, and give her a shout out on Twitter at Sexy Isn't Sexist, and check out her Substack. All right, watch the video. It's a good one. Peace. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Glenn Lawrence, and I'm back, and I have a guest with me. Today, I have Paula Wright. She is an actress, comedian, a stunt person, former feminist, and evolutionary psychologist. Like, I don't know, like, isn't that pretty much everything?
I'm not a stunt person. Have you got
Oh, well, I'm sure you could do a stunt.
No, I'm not Cynthia Rothrock. I'm not.
Okay, you know, I mean, you're a jack of all trades up there, so you know.
Yeah. I mean, my partner does a bit of MMA, but
Nice.
Not me. Not me.
I have a buddy that does MMA. He used to be
Yeah.
a former. He was actually a UFC champion. John Finch.
No, I don't know.
He fought like I think he fought like Jean-Paul St. Pierre.
I think the last game I saw, the last fight I saw was when, was it Anderson Silva broke his leg?
Oh yeah, when it snapped in half, and
Yeah,
like, oh man, he couldn't even put his foot down. I remember that one. That was bad.
And during the Ronda Rousey period, I was really interested
Yeah.
in that when she was winning, and then she stopped winning, and just the change in her personality. I thought that was really fascinating as an evolutionary psychologist, that she couldn't kind of handle the not winning.
Wasn't it
So-
Holly
Holly
Holm?
Holm. Mhm.
Holly Holm that knocked her out,
Yeah.
right? Or did she
Yeah.
knock her out, or did she beat her by the?
Oh God, well, I think she eventually knocked her out.
I think she eventually
Yeah.
knocked her out, but I thought she beat her
She
the
got
first time was
pummeled.
by the scorecard. I thought.
It might have
Yeah.
been, I don't know, but yeah, she because she's judo, Ronda Rousey, isn't she? So
Yeah.
and Holly's boxer. Yeah. So
Mhm. I mean, I thought Ronda Rousey was great. I thought she had a
Yeah.
great run. She's definitely a legend in the
definitely,
sport.
definitely.
There hasn't really been any female fighters as exciting as her, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah.
So
The Irish girl. Sorry, carry on.
no, I don't know. We could get into sports and talking about fights all the day long, and that's fine by me because I love that stuff. But let's talk about you a little bit. Like, I mean, I know who I am, and my audience knows who I am. So let's talk about who you are.
Okay.
You are in the UK.
Mhm.
How did you so you got into acting? Like that was like your first big thing?
Oh yeah, that's well, I left school without any qualifications. And I've got high functioning autism. I didn't know that until a few years ago. So I didn't really kind of want to. I didn't really fit into lots of kind of different things, and I was very pretty. That was the one thing I had going for me back then, and I kind of just kind of but I was also very arty and very creative, and I used to write, and I just became an actor, and yeah, did quite well at it for a while. Did some kind of TV program. Have you heard of Catherine Cookson? It's these kind of
Yeah.
romantic kind of things. I was in one of them, and and but yeah, just when I was about 30, I kind of settled down, had a baby, and that's when I went and got a degree for the first time. And yeah, just kind of acting just wasn't doing it for me. I got a bit tired of being sent for kind of castings for, like toilet cleaner, and
Oh my
my
gosh.
bathroom
I
was the
know.
most gloriously clean. It's just like, no, this isn't what I got into it for. So
I've been to so many of those casting calls and and those auditions, and you're just like, why did my agent send me
outside with
here?
loads of people who look kind of like you,
Yeah. And you're like,
and
you're like, you're like, why did my agent send me here? Like, says so I only do theatrical, right?
yeah,
And out here you still need a commercial and theatrical. Like, it's just better. But I always told my commercial agent, like, look, unless it's a music video and it's a big name,
hmm
don't send it to me. I
yeah,
don't want it,
yeah,
because
no,
I do voiceovers as well. So,
mhm,
like I get the jobs for the voice acting myself. So I do pretty good doing that. And I was like, I don't really want to do commercials. I
mhm.
have done so many stupid commercials.
See,
And
I
it's like you can't say no, because then you get dropped. And some of these commercials can end up paying pretty well.
that's why your agent loves you doing them, because they get paid
They get
absolutely.
paid very well.
Yeah. Well, one of my agents at the time, I think it was just after I did the Catherine Cookson thing, he ran off with all of our money, everyone on his book, all his money. And so that pissed me off a bit. And then I got a new
Yeah.
agent, and I had to start again. And it wasn't kind of, and I'd done a bit of writing. I'd got a kind of writing bursary from Channel 4 for a film
Hmm.
I'd been working on, but then I just had a baby, and I just kind of didn't do anything for a while, so I just stopped and
Yeah. No,
reassessed.
I know there's some pretty shady people out there. I got scammed by a producer, director myself. I wrote a
Mhm,
film based off of Rollo's Iron Rule number 1,
right.
frame is everything. And it's a romantic comedy. It's a rom-com that I call a dick flick, because it's a dude chick flick.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and it's about basically these guys that are trying to find relationships, just failure
Mhm,
to launch, and one of them never left the house, and the one just got out of a divorce, and he's trying to figure out like how to navigate this love life.
mhm.
And what they realize is that they always were like chameleons to the partner they were with, so they never were themselves.
Yeah.
They never lived in their own frame. And once they
Oh, is that
realize,
what that means? Okay, right.
yeah. So frame is like, you live in your own, like you are your mental point of origin. You're not
Yeah,
thinking like you first and then everybody else. It's like, it's
yeah,
not a selfish thing, but it's like you can't help others unless you help yourself, you know.
yeah, yeah.
So
No,
it's not
that's good, basic, good, healthy psychology, really, just not constantly being a
exactly.
pleaser and
Exactly. And and
just
and becoming a doormat. You don't want to do that,
yeah,
because
no,
you end up, developing these bad habits where you think people are going to appreciate the things that you do for them, even though
no,
they never asked you to
totally
do
not
them. You just do them, you know what I mean? Like, so
definitely.
it's
No,
a rom-com. I actually got like Tom Arnold is attached to this film.
Mhm.
And I've been like working on fundraising this thing. And I
Oh,
met this guy on set. He was the director and the producer of this other independent film that I got casted on. And we hit it off. We're cool, chatting it up. And he calls me up a couple days later. He's like, yo, I really want to get involved in your movie. He's like, I have a Netflix deal, and I have to, make a couple more movies, and send me the script and we'll look it
mhm.
over. Sent him the script. He loved it. He's like, all right, I need a down for the
Oh no!
escrow. And I'm excited, right? I'm super excited at this point. I'm like, oh my gosh, because I got shut down by Paramount. I got shut down by Lionsgate already. But because they wanted me to change the script for LGBT and all the weird acronyms and stuff. And I'm like, no, this is my film. This is how I see it, So they're like, well, good luck. And I did a movie with Tom Arnold, and Tom read the script and he's like, I want in. So I was like, cool. So I sent them the money, gave them the money, and then come to find out, this guy scammed not only everybody that we worked with on set, but he scammed a film company out of Texas for $350,000. Another film company in Hawaii. They just arrested this guy like 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago in Long Beach, California. Like, yeah, like,
yeah.
It was bad. So I know what you mean. There's some shady people out here.
My partner, like, as well as being MMA, he's a filmmaker as well, and he's just had a film produced over in Mexico.
Wonderful. That's awesome.
It's an action movie with Cynthia Roth in it. But yeah. But we'll see what that's gonna be. It's not an A-list film or anything like that. I can't promise.
Hey, you know what? I've done plenty of B-list movies, like.
But he loves fight. He loves fight genre. So he wants.
Same here. Yeah. I did a movie with Nick Nolte. That was awesome, and there was a good fighting scene in that. Yeah. But so
he was working a lot.
When did you transition from? So you transitioned from acting to college to get your degree, and that was after you got the baby.
When I was 30, that's when me and my partner, we were friends for about 5 years, and that's when we started going out with each other. And we had a baby, and then I went to. Well, actually, no, I went to college first, and I became pregnant while I was at college.
Okay. So you started school first, and then you guys had the baby.
Yeah.
Okay. And what drew you to evolutionary psychology? Out of all the degrees in the world, what drew you there?
Well, it was a book on one of his shelves. So I picked it up. It was it had my name on it. It had Robert Wright. I thought, like, oh, Robert Wright. I wonder if we're related. And it was called The Moral Animal. And I read it, and I was just hooked. You hear that a lot about people who just pick up a book about evolutionary psychology, and they're just completely hooked by the logic of it, really. And because I was at university, and I was getting bombarded with a lot of kind of feminist Marxist stuff. That by that time I was a mature student, so I wasn't particularly that open to it. I just thought this is actually a much clearer, logical, scientific lens that feminists should, adopt, and it will actually, get rid of the chaff, get rid of all the nonsense, get rid of patriarchy theory, all that kind of shite, and actually help, kind of like male and female relations by just, looking into the hood and seeing what is going on. So it was just that. And throughout, I left when I finished uni. I started my Darwinian Gender Studies online forum, which was kind of dead for about 2 years, and then David Buss and lots of people turned up, and it became Claire Lemon turned up. She was one of my admins. It was kind of like the nascent kind of intellectual dark web. And
really, so it was like a forum where all you brainiacs would go to.
Facebook forum, Darwinian Gender Studies, kind of around about 2008, 2009, 2010. Really kind of. I always kept the membership low. It was a closed group. It was never more than 500 people, just to maintain the level of debate. And we could see where the culture war was going to be kicking off very soon.
So you guys were able to like foresee where things were going.
Absolutely. Wow. Because I could see what was happening. When I'd approached feminists and said evolutionary psychology can make feminism better, they just weren't interested. They weren't interested at all, which is the kind of because the only thing they were interested in is their ideology, their dogma. They didn't want to have to change the script, which made it clear to me that they weren't interested in helping anybody but
That was
themselves.
going to be my next question to you. What is your thoughts on feminism? Like, because, you know, some people will say, well, the first wave was good. And, you know, some people, well, the second wave was all right, you know, but other people will say, well, you know, feminism has been the same thing since the beginning of feminism. You know, it's been the idea was to, like, the tenets were to destroy the nuclear family, were to, you know, cause confusion,
Mhm.
to gain power or authority over men.
Mhm.
And they're like, that was there from the first
First
wave.
wave was
Yeah.
74. Yeah.
Yeah, Seneca Falls. They're like, so it's never really changed. It just changed in how it presented itself.
Well,
Would
I
you
think
agree with that?
yeah, kind of feminism in that sense has always been led by very kind of wealthy women. And the second, well, it was kind of dead for a while, and then there was Simone de Beauvoir wrote this.
The
The second
mystique,
sex. No, that was Betty Friedan. About 10
oh,
years later, wrote The Feminine Mystique, and that kind of launched the second wave, which everybody calls liberal feminism, but liberal feminism is a myth. It's never existed. The second wave was taken over immediately by radical lesbians, which nothing wrong with being lesbian, but they did particularly want to dismantle heterosexuality and the family because of they thought they were the patriarchy. It's kind of all centered around this idea of the patriarchy, which in a feminist conception is really quite basic and quite moronic, really, when it's just kind of looking at the idea that all women are oppressed by all men under this
yeah.
structure of and actually just reading what was I reading recently? I was reading Plutarch's Lives. In the original Greek, there's an alternative kind of translation of patriarch as somebody who protects the weak, rather than actually. It is also a translation of head of the family, the male head of the family, and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the father of the family. I mean, that's what the patriarchy is the male father led. That's what I think that's what the original translation is father led or father ruled or something
But
like that.
what feminists kind of don't take any appreciation of is the role of women in the patriarchy, in maintaining and upholding those kind of standards against other women. Because I don't think particularly you might a lot of people might think that feminism is anti-male. I think primarily it's actually anti-women, and men are, or it wants the power and control over other women. You see that they're constantly trying to get women to do
Well,
this, do that. It's
I think they're trying to
anti-choice.
shame them. I think they're trying to shame them into to fall in line with their narrative, right?
Yeah, and I think just like male kind of competition, where sometimes women are harmed, by proxy of that, kind of what do you call that in war when you your friend?
By casualty of war.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
You know, women feminists, a lot of feminists are misandrists, but mostly it's about just control over, well, just people who aren't feminists, basically, because there are as many male feminists today as there are female.
See, I find it interesting because I pointed back to the Bible. So I have a degree in religion from Liberty University, and in Genesis, like I'm telling you the Bible story, I'm sure you probably have heard it before. You know, Adam and Eve sinned, God got mad at them, kicked them out of the garden, and then sin was on the earth, right? Well, before he kicked them out of the garden, he told Adam's like, look, you're gonna have to work the soil, you're gonna have to work the land basically to live off of now. Before everything was provided for, now you have to do some work the ground to make it work for you. And he tells Eve, he's like, you're gonna experience excruciating pain basically during your childbearing. And your desire to control your husband, but he will rule over you. That was part of the curse, right? That was part of the punishment of sin. And I'm like, man, when I read that, I'm like, think about all like what feminists or feminism's tenet is. It's the desire to control men in a way and rule over them. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's
that's pretty
exactly what,
interesting. That's biblical almost.
yeah, because feminists are obsessed with power, and
Exactly.
that's what they want. But it's not
Hmm.
just over men; it's over everybody.
Yes, it's over everything. And
Mhm.
it's just like, wow, that's kind of very biblical. I find it really interesting
Yeah.
that it could correlate there. So when it comes to feminism, I don't see, I can't really see the positive that it has brought to society. Now, don't get me wrong, I do think equal treatment and fair treatment for all humanity is critical. I
Mhm.
think everybody has the right and should be treated equally, you
Yeah.
know. Um, but at the same time, I don't think that if you're going to have equal freedoms, there's equal responsibilities.
Mhm.
And I don't think that's what we have here in nowadays. I
Yeah.
think we have given freedoms, or they've been liberated, as they would say, but they haven't taken they took the freedom without the responsibility that comes with that freedom, and they tend to still blame the man for their mistakes. And I think that's a problem that we're seeing more now than ever, with bad behavior. Um, for example, if a woman thinks that she could lie on a guy and say that he did something egregious like raped her or
Mhm.
sexual assaulted her, right? And she's able to get away with it, and after he gets found out, and there's no consequence, there's no punishment for this act, because now this guy's whole life has been ruined over an accusation, but there's no consequence for her behavior. It kind of sets the tone, like, well, what can they get in trouble for if they
Mhm.
can't get in trouble for something like that? And I think that's kind of been embedded in our culture over time, where we just don't deal with it, we let it go. And I think that's probably a factor of feminism, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, there are, tropes of dangerous women and crazy women and, of promiscuous women, and they'll, you're going to play with fire and things like that. So there are those
Mhm.
kinds of things. Um, but yeah, I think what feminism, even though most people aren't feminists and most women aren't feminists, I think what feminism has led to is the growth of female chauvinism,
Mm,
which is different, from I grew up definitely in a time of male chauvinism.
yeah.
When all men thought they were imbued with some kind of specialty because they're simply because they're men. When actually, special men are special men, regardless. Masculinity is probably the least to do with that. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now, women are told, you are special just because you're a woman. Women
Just
are
because you
superior.
exist, you don't
Yeah,
have to do anything to
yeah,
reach this
absolutely.
specialness. You
And
are, men have to become, and women just are. That's a
yeah,
Rollo Tomasi,
yeah.
phrase.
And because, well, simply because of that, it's just kind of encouraging a lot of women, just to see that. Well, it's because it's because there are culturally kind of, informed kind of, well, the feminist culture encourages that kind of chauvinism in women. And I
Yeah,
just think there's something special about them, just simply because they are women. Um, and most women are average, just like most men are average.
yeah,
But they're all been told you know,
they're special.
yeah.
They're all special little
Mhm.
butterflies.
But we're not. Most of us are just average, and that's perfectly fine.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with being average.
Absolutely.
So, when did you start getting involved in? When did you find the the red pill manosphere space? When did you stumble across that?
I think I wrote an art. It was when intersectionality or woke started to become mainstream. No, I think I wrote something for A Voice for Men, Paul Elam,
Hmm.
around about 2015. So yeah, 2015 time Gamergate, and I wrote an article about Gamergate, defending Gamergate, and I kind of became a bit asunder because, obviously I'm a scientist, and evolutionary psychologist, so I'm following the evidence. I'm not really being aligned to any kind of end goal that I can't see the evidence, pointing to or anything. It's so I'm never going to kind of align myself. That's why I'm not a feminist. I'm not MRA. I'm just, hopefully evidence driven, looking at, because, there's no reason, there's absolutely no logic in the universe that would put men and women in any sense as equal or as superior or inferior to each other. They have different traits that complement each other.
Yeah, they're complementary to each other.
We wouldn't be such a massively successful species if what half of us was, just dumb and stupid.
Yeah,
So,
I think men and women are the perfect yin and yang. Like it's just because I could do things that you can't do doesn't make you less valuable than me.
No,
I mean, over time we have shown that women are the incubators of life, and we tend to save them. That's why guys jump in front of bullets for them.
And men are designed by evolution to fight other men.
Exactly.
To protect those weaker. To protect ultimately their genetic legacy, which women carry within them.
Exactly.
So I've lost my thread.
Oh, I'm sorry. Someone on the red pill.
Oh yeah. So I wrote something for A Voice for Men and Paul Elam, and then I criticized their theory of gynocentrism from an evolutionary perspective, because I thought it just kind of looked too simplistic and was just like a kind of the opposite of female patriarchy theory. And I kind of they didn't really like me criticizing it, and it got a bit personal and a bit nasty, as it can do. And it was just around there. I was kind of so maybe I was quite defensive at the time. I'm not sure when I kind of discovered Rollo. I think there was just some kind of, again, just some kind of, it's difficult now because we know tweets, aren't the.
You only have so many characters. You only got so many characters to use, you can't articulate exactly what you want.
And evolutionary psychology was under massive kind of attack. And I mean, it has been for 20 years from feminists, from Marxists, from leftists, from everywhere. And I saw what Rollo was doing, and I just thought, you're not helping. You're actually giving these people, like more kind of, you're helping them attack us, because I mean, you're pithy, and you're appealing to a lot of young people out there and kind of popularizing evolutionary psychology. But what it's missing is just a basic understanding of the theory of evolution itself, which is, people think, like I say, I the first time I picked up an evolutionary psychology book, I went, oh wow, this is no brainer. It's really easy. But then when you start to become a scientist, you learn the actual deep theory of evolution, and it gets quite complex. And within evolutionary psychology, there's always two levels of analysis you need to be looking at a problem from, which is a proximate one and an ultimate one. And I find that MRAs, red pill, and feminism itself tend to look at human problems from a proximate view, and they neglect. So, and the proximate view kind of helps. Well, it helps ideologues because it makes blaming the other sex easy. But then when you look at it from an evolutionary ultimate perspective, you start to see actually it's evolution that's oppressing us all. We're all fucked, nobody's getting out of here alive.
Nobody's getting out of here easy.
We are just meat bags for evolution. And it can kind of set us up against each other sometimes when our interests are not kind of meeting and stuff like that, and it can get a bit nasty. But actually, ultimately, we're all fighting, entropy and mortality, male and female. None of us are getting out of that. So blaming, a woman blaming a man for, I don't know, men being stronger and some of them being arseholes, and blaming all men for that, is nonsense. And then at the other end, kind of looking at trying to say, yes, there's toxic masculinity and there's toxic and looking at the toxic elements of both of the sexes and just making them the only kind of variables that are important isn't the best way for us to understand each other and get the best out of the short time we have on this planet.
Like I've heard that, like, people's thoughts on Rollo's work, like they thought it weaponized people, or it caused people to be triggered or something. I found Rollo's work after going through a divorce. And my ex had multiple affairs, and my son and my ex are living somewhere else now. I filed for the divorce. I wasn't sticking around for that. And I was involved in the church, and when I went to the church about it, and they're like, well, you're divorcing your wife, you should have still stay with her, blah blah. I'm like, no. And so they kind of alienated me. And I was looking for help, trying to figure out something, kind of trying to answer why this happened to me, right? And I came across his podcast. This was when he was on with Pat, and I was like, "Oh, this sounds really interesting." I kind of know what I've been going through this. So then I got his book. I read it the first time. It was really enlightening, but I tried to disprove it first, because I'm not somebody that just like easily to believe somebody. Like, I go through the checks and balances, like, okay, have I witnessed this? Have I experienced this? Is there something that I could relate to this that says, oh, this seems somewhat, there's some truth here? And at first I tried to refute it, because coming from a very biblical blue-pilled, or that mindset, you don't ever think of women as anything negative. Everything is always from the male's negativity, right? So as I was going through it the second time, I was like, this is good stuff. There's something here that I need, is eye-opening. I never got the experience where, like, I hated women. At first I was very mad at her, but then after reading it the second time, I was mad at myself, because he's talking about, like, the red flags that you're choosing not to notice. And you put yourself in these situations by trying to be the happy wife, happy life kind of guy, right? So you're putting yourself constantly below her. How's she going to respect you if you're constantly, self-deprecating yourself, like so on all these little things that he pointed out, I was like, man, this is things that I was doing. And I realized, man, I'm more to blame than she is, because although, she did the act, but I created the environment for one to think that behavior is acceptable, So I never got like that angry, crazy feeling that, like, I hear a lot of people get. Maybe it's just because I don't know, smarter than most. No, I'm kidding. But I find his work to be,
being in bad relationships is, and finding out who you're compatible with, and who you are and what you like. You have to go through that kind of it's a coming of age thing, isn't it? Really,
it really is. It is. It's kind of,
you have to have your heart broken, and you have to do and to learn who you are and what you want. Obviously, I mean, you were in the church, so you got married. I mean, that's
kind of sucked. And I'm kind of on Rollo's side here when he says, the way that we do marriage today, I can't support. And I look at it like, I can't support it from a biblical sense, because we don't uphold it from that value system anymore. The way that divorce is so easily ready. I mean, you could go through a drive-through divorce place, it seems like, as you're going through a drive-through Starbucks. And, it just seems like there's no value in marriage anymore. And it seems like it could be, it seems like it's all risk, typically, for men. In the sense of financial loss of, provisions, loss of family, loss of, everything you guys build up. And
I'd just be really worried that, like, a young kind of 17-year-old reads that and then thinks, I can't trust anyone. I can't trust women. I can't, I can't trust myself. I can't trust my gut. I can't trust my heart. I can't, when
Is it that they can't trust it, or should they be aware of it? It's not like you can't trust, but like, hey, don't put yourself
But I
in a
mean,
situation to where that you're not really ready to walk away from and be okay.
yeah. But I mean, I think, as what the data on hunter-gatherer societies and that tells us is that, we're not really a species that we're kind of serially monogamous. We seem to kind of like
Yes.
do kind of hop to a certain degree, maybe have 2 or 3 really important relationships within our lives. So that, and in hunter-gatherer societies, they don't have any formal kind of marriage ceremony, and they
Mhm.
don't have any really formal divorce ceremony either. And the divorce rate in hunter-gatherers is about the same as it is now in our society. So that kind of reflects a more kind of, I don't know, maybe that's kind of the actual rate that it's supposed to be generally. But I
You think
mean,
like
yeah,
it's like a natural thing?
Hmm?
Like it's a natural thing?
Yeah, kind of a cyclic thing. Yeah, I think that's what it seems to be. The more choice that we've got, I mean, the whole thing about kind of alimony and all this kind of thing is different because they don't have those kinds of structures. But even the wedding ceremony in the West is based around the old dowry structure.
Yes.
So that's why, I don't know, is it traditional in the US for the bride's family to pay for the wedding?
Yes.
Yeah, that's where the shadow of that old dowry kind of thing. It's the bride's family
Yeah,
has
because
to
that was the cost
yeah,
basically.
and
Yeah.
so yeah.
So what is your biggest disagreements with the red pill? Because I think there's probably things that you do agree with it on.
I don't like any kind of thing that won't kind of that seems stuck. Like it just seems, and it won't kind of reassess based on evidence.
That's
I mean,
weird.
we talked to you talked about David Buss kind of and the mate switching hypothesis, and
Yeah.
had to
So,
change his opinion on that because it just wasn't replicated.
well,
And
see,
any good
I
scientist
gotta.
kind of do that. If you hold on to something, just even if it's you're really sure it's right and you really love this idea, and if it doesn't replicate, if the experiments don't back it up, you unfortunately have to put it in the bin, or just wait until the future when, I mean, the whole point of it not replicating is because the tests, the evidential standards of.
Do you think it could they have changed? Like, I mean, like, oh, no more audio. Somehow I lost your audio. Um, do you think that like maybe when it was originally done, that they were able to replicate it, and due to societal and cultural change, that would ultimately shift the results?
No, not in that kind of sense. When the sorry, as you gather more evidence with more
Mhm,
people, the and the samples get bigger, they get
mhm.
more reliable, and in the beginning they're going to be much smaller than.
But you're gonna have different variables, right, in a bigger sample?
Well, no, you create your own variables, but what you want to look at. So when you replicate a study, you use the same variables. You do
Okay.
everything the same, but maybe with a larger sample. Yeah.
Hmm.
So you don't change anything. That's why it's replicated. It has to be done exactly the same, which is why everything has to be written down and explained in academic scientific papers, so people
Mhm.
can pick them up and go to a different lab and do that exact same experiment somewhere else and see if they get the same results. No, evolutionary psychology has got a really great replication rate. It's the best in psychology. I think social science has got the worst.
Mhm.
Just this one hypothesis. It's not theory until it's been replicated, numerous times.
Yeah.
And so this one hypothesis just hasn't made it. Yeah, hasn't made it through the.
So your disagreement is against
Just
mate
be you have to
switching.
be open. Just be open to evidence and open to saying, I loved this theory, but unfortunately, I love this hypothesis.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've got things like, parental investment theory. When it's called a
Yeah.
theory, evolutionary theory, it's not a hypothesis anymore. It's gone through that kind of process. It's different in social science. Everybody calls every hypothesis they've got a theory. It's not.
No.
It's
Explain the
confusing.
difference between mate shifting and the dualistic mating strategy for women, like due to hypergamy. Like, does hypergamy still play a factor?
Well, hypergamy. I just wrote a big long thread on hypergamy actually, just on Twitter, because hypergamy is a two-way street. Men want to marry up as well, but men marry up.
Do they marry up really in the same sense as women do?
No, it's a different sense. Men do it via youth and beauty. They do it. They're looking at those genes.
Is that hypergamy though?
Well, it is in the same sense of marrying up. That you'll say that you want to. Right. I'll just.
Because I'm trying to understand, because I understand like hypergamy in the sense of women don't want to get with somebody that's lower than them, right? But guys tend to have a no floor threshold. Like if they want to get with somebody, they're gonna get with them. They don't care as long as they have a pulse. They're gonna do it.
Well, it depends if you want to have sex or you want to have a relationship or you want to have children.
True.
So.
But in the sense of like, hey, having sex leads to having children, that's a after, that's a consequence in some cases, right?
Yeah.
So at any time any guy has sex, I mean, he's basically taking the opportunity of having a relationship to some degree, whether it's long-term or being a parental, parent, co-parenting, he takes that risk. So since guys don't have a floor, they'll just go with whatever. Is it really considered hypergamy?
No, they are choosy. Men are choosy. They're just less choosy.
They're very less choosy.
But that.
I have never met a girl. I've never met a girl that said that she would get with somebody that's uglier than her.
Really?
I've never met a girl that got with somebody
Billy Joel syndrome.
Well, that's true.
Okay, so I'll just read this out. It's just a thread.
Yeah.
So, someone just asked me if there's an evolutionary explanation of what the red pill community call hypergamy, mating up, or women preferring men with resources. So women do value resources and ambition in a mate because it helps their evolutionary fitness. What people don't seem to understand is that youth and beauty are the equal and opposite resources men value for exactly the same reason, because it helps their genetic fitness. Okay, it's a fair exchange. Women are looking for, where is it? Resources and ambition. Men are looking for youth and beauty, right? That's a fair exchange. Because men in Ferraris hang around beaches and clubs with young, beautiful women. They don't hang around retirement homes with rich old ladies. No, they don't. And this is explained by Trivers' parental investment theory, and it's because this is the foundation, right, of hypergamy. It's not about women being gold diggers or anything like that. This really is biological.
I think it's good for women to be hypergamous. I think it benefits both men and women.
And because women begin the whole reproductive process by putting far more resources into offspring biologically with the egg. The egg is far more resource rich than sperm, and it's also much more rare. And then there's 10 months of pregnancy. Okay, very expensive resources. Then there's the birth. These are all called obligate resources because the female has no choice to invest them. They are biologically determined. Now, these are all the resources before birth. The male hasn't really invested anything yet except a sperm. He's not forced. He can invest if he wants, but he's not forced to. There's no obligate investment there. So he can make a choice. And this is why it's really important for a woman to make a good choice. This is what all the shit tests are for. Right? And it's because
all the shit tests are to make sure that she is getting with the right guy, that he can handle her kind of crazy.
After the children are born, human infants are born in what we call an altrical state, which means they're helpless. Okay, they need care. They can't even manage their own core temperatures. Okay, then there's breastfeeding. In our evolutionary past, it could go up to 5 years, and human milk is really thin and sugar rich. It is digested really quickly. There's hardly any fat in it, which is why you can't make ice cream with it.
It's like it's a really fast burning carbohydrate.
Yeah, and they have to be fed every 2 hours or so, right, throughout the day and night, especially in the first 6 months, or before they can be weaned and put onto other things. So, yeah, I'm talking about.
Infant? Is that an infant?
An infant, yeah.
Well, I guess my eating habits haven't changed since I was a baby. Then.
So, yeah, I'm talking about for most of our species history, when evolution's honed all of these kind of fitness traits, not the last 100 years, because we're adapted to the past, not the present. So there's this, and then so during this time, the mother and baby are very vulnerable. If the father's not a good provider, if he's a deadbeat, then the baby will have died. She's probably going to have to either, abandon the baby, or and what else kind of cost she's going to have socially of been abandoned by her partner or been an unmarried mother, which is for evolutionary speaking, the mother's lost all of that obligate kind of resource kind of thing. The man's really lost nothing, evolutionary speaking, if he just wants to.
In that sense, yeah.
So that's why it's important for a woman to choose a mate who can provide consistency and resources. Ambition demonstrates future resource potential, just as youth in a woman demonstrates future reproductive potential for men who are looking to have a family. So yeah, women today might say they don't want kids, but the adaptations that she's inherited from her ancestors who were successful are the things that are making her look for that good provider, wanting to look for the man who can provide that resource. Yeah.
Well,
So
that makes sense. But see, then if they equate, theoretically, hypothetically, say they equate, then the value system is not the same though.
No, it's not.
Because a woman's beauty, I mean, unfortunately, it has an expiration date, and it kind of comes pretty quickly, right? For some.
Yeah.
And as guys tend to age, they tend to become more successful because they have to become, and women just are, so their value,
that kind of dead like no sex period of your life tends to would if you look at it like kind of teenage boys would generally in the past have just had no sex, had to prove themselves as men, then gotten the women kind of within that middle in their prime, and then women when they're in their evolutionary prime when they're young, and then they throughout their 20s and the early 30s, and then they experience what the teenage boys kind of experience, which is just the dust heap kind of thing. But apart from that, they are really useful for childcare and things like that.
Yeah.
The nuclear family isn't really an evolutionary model of a family. It kind of has extended family included in there as well.
But is it? I mean, when it comes to hypergamy, now, because I find from my understanding of it, is women marry across the board, so someone equal to them or up, right? Now, guys tend to want beauty. They don't care about a good woman's job. They don't really, if they have their things together, they don't really care about her job or her career, stuff like that. They just want a good wife, a good, woman to make babies with or to reproduce, right? So is that really up though? I mean, because he could reproduce with anybody that's a woman. and have kids with. So
It's the good genes hypothesis.
oh, so it's like the sexy sons theory.
Sexy sons are sexy daughters.
So it's basically that it's like that
Mhm.
theory. Okay, but is it hypergamy though? If he has to basically earn it, she doesn't have to earn it.
No, because she's already got the resources. She does. She's already got them in an
Yeah,
egg.
yeah.
That's
So
the resource. It's not the women. This is kind of my
okay, okay. So
criticism of gynocentrism. It's not really about women. It's kind of ovocentrism,
mhm.
and men would be very stupid if they didn't value eggs over sperm.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, of course. I mean, we've been doing that since the dawn of
yeah.
time.
So
You
because
know
women carry eggs,
exactly.
yeah, they are by default, yeah, especially young women,
Hmm.
fertile women, much more kind of sought after and valued by.
Well, of course, you get if you want to continue your species, if you want to continue your legacy, you have to protect the incubators of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so I get that. But do you think we are not seeing gynocentrism in society and cultures these days?
I don't. No, I think what I'm seeing. I'm seeing chauvinism, most definitely, and I'm seeing feminists abuse something like that. But it's not. The thing I object to about the theory of gynocentrism is that it's again is that most people only see it from the proximate level. It's
Hmm.
kind of women exploiting men or exploiting society because they're pretty, they're neotenous, because of all these things that evolution has made them. Do you know what I mean? That it's young women that are pretty and neotenous and things like that. It's because they are the ones who are capable of carrying. They've got the viable eggs.
Yeah, Rolo just
Old
texted me right
women.
now. Sorry, I didn't mean to be distracted. He just texted me about buying a shirt.
Older
Yeah,
women
that's funny.
are not neotenous. Their eyes get smaller. We lose our teeth when we get older. Our skin isn't as glowy. So, I mean, and feminists are definitely abusing that element.
Yeah,
Yeah, but they're not. But at the same time, they're oppressing women they're stopping women, beautiful young women from actually monetizing that. They've stopped the kind of the grid girls and the boxing girls, and they stopped women just basically just using all of that kind of all of those resources. But I think it's backfired anyway over COVID. What with OnlyFans.
oh,
I don't think they could see OnlyFans coming.
oh man, OnlyFans is bad. But see, this is where. So this is why I could understand. Like, I guess what you're saying, like the proximity is like the surface level, right?
Yeah, the proximate level is just the surface level, and it's easy for ideologues really to take things there and to just go, "That's who you need to blame for that."
Well, see, I don't even think it's blame, and see, I blame men, honestly, for everything that we have going on, and I would say Rolo has also like holds that tenet too. It's like, look, guys drop the ball somewhere along the line, and because we dropped the ball, we made an ass out of ourselves, and now we're paying for it. In the sense of the way I look at it, feminism would never be an issue if everybody was treated properly, right?
Yeah, and
Like
let people make a choice, like a
yeah, like
libertarianist kind of perspective. Yeah,
yeah, like
just some women who want to be maternal mothers.
yeah,
Variation is the engine of evolution. Okay, some women are not natural mothers. They don't want to be there. They want to be, a
yeah.
small portion of them are going to be fantastic rocket scientists, but there's never going to be as many as them as there are men, because that's just
It's just not the way that their brain's wired.
Yeah, yeah. So forcing, it's the actual forcing. It's the forcing the equality of outcome, which is the the toxic.
That's the problem. Yeah, that's the big problem. But I do see, like, so Rolo wrote an article or a blog post called "Remove the Man," and I did a voice reading of it recently, a recording of it, just to practice, my voice acting.
Mhm.
And I after reading it, I was like, wow, he wrote this back in 2013. And I remember back in 2013, if I would have read that, I would have thought this guy was a nut job, right? And it was basically talking about how they were making everything more gender neutral, removing men out of the vocabulary and of words, like no more policeman, it was police officer, no more congressman, it was, and they started doing that. Instead of going like police woman or congresswoman, they just made Congress, person.
And what are they doing now? They're removing women.
Exactly.
They're
And it
removing
was,
the word woman from everything. It's like cis woman.
yeah,
Because trans
everything's a cis.
women
Like,
are women.
when I think of a cis, I think of a big old pimple that's about to pop. Like, I don't want to be labeled a cis. Okay, can I just be a man? But
so this comes back to kind of the whole feminist kind of project. It used to be just about dismantling the patriarchy. Now it's about dismantling the cis hetero white imperialist capitalist
Christian or religious,
whatever, basically Western civilization.
Yeah. And when he wrote that in 2013, and I'm reading that, and I'm like, I would never have adopted to that back then. But now I see it, it's everywhere. You can't not deny that. I mean, I remember we're growing up and there was guys that were gay, and that's cool. Do your gay thing. I'm all for you being gay. Do your gay thing. Just don't try to tell me I need to be gay. Okay. Now we got to the point where I don't know, through feminism, through this whole culture shift, that we got men abandoning themselves to adopt a female mentality or want to identify as female, going through mutilation because men have been shamed or have been labeled bad.
There's more girls, teenage girls, transitioning from female gender to the male gender.
Where
especially autistic girls. That's you wouldn't know it to look, because the people who are dominating the narrative are trans women, which are men.
Yeah, because I mean the
majority of people changing gender and getting mutilated and are teenage autistic girls.
The last statistic I pulled up, it was locally based out here in the United States. It was reporting that men are the ones that are more transitioning to or identifying as female than women are. But I mean,
identifying there, because I'm looking at the kind of the Tavistock Clinic, which is in London, which kind of starts young children on hormone changing and then refers them for surgery. That data in there is mostly young girls.
Wow, that's
getting top surgery, having their uteruses taken out. They've basically been made into infertile drones.
You wrote an article, I believe, about this, and it was about let me get this correct. I got this. It was, you were talking about the trans community, right? And that there's this backing behind it. There's an agenda behind it. There was, like, I think you said tech company. There was a tech, the tech industries behind it, right? And was it the tech company?
I'm not sure what that one is. Was that a tweet or was that an article? Well, basically, the whole thing behind it is the mechanism behind it is intersectional feminism. And at the minute, radical feminism are fighting intersectional feminists purely for their lesbian identity, so they can keep their lesbian identity. They're completely on board with everything else about the whole kind of dismantling the cis hetero white capitalist Western patriarchy. So at the minute they're kind of standing up saying we're fighting for women's rights. They're not really. They're fighting for lesbian rights. It's kind of gone back full circle to
Oh.
Betty Friedan at the beginning of the 70s with the Lavender Menace. Because they're still, those feminists are still anti-family, they're still anti-heteronormative culture and anti-capitalist and all that kind of thing. So it's only particularly one thing that they're fighting against. The rest of it, they're completely on board with.
So do you think that, like, the way I look at transgenderism, and this is my opinion, I was like, to me, transgenderism was birthed from feminism, especially a lot of the science and the data that they would try to use. You
Yeah,
know,
John Money.
John Money, yeah, he was horrible.
But then, that the first, that Simone de Beauvoir's, second sex, in that famous quote, women are not born, they are made. That's basically French kind of the structuralist kind of thing coming up from there. But what I'm worried about is, though, because and I'm seeing a lot of this, the whole kind of, because of the T and the Q that's gone on LGBTQ, the hostility towards the T and the Q is now being directed towards just gay people, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah,
Because
they're the kind of the
most gay
casualties.
people are not activists. They're just
Yeah.
wanting to live their lives and do what they do and not shove it in people's faces. But these two extremist kind of groups that have added onto it are really causing a lot of enmity towards those groups, which is really, really unfortunate. But I'm not sure if that is actually the point as well.
I don't know. I think that maybe because, I mean, look, you have to divide and conquer, right?
Yeah.
So if they want their narrative, if whoever's backing it, if it's the radical feminists that are backing this, right, they have to divide them.
Intersectional feminists, yeah.
Or the intersectional, yeah, you have to cause fighting amongst the groups, right, in order to keep them in line. You keep them divided.
What woke is. Woke, under the umbrella of woke, is intersectional feminism. So you've got woke. So you've got intersectional feminism, then you've got woke, colloquial. Then under that, you've got the strands of dismantling patriarchy, cis heteropatriarchy, capitalist patriarchy, Marxism, blah, 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 colonialist, all this kind of thing. In it, Black Lives
So it's like
Matter,
one big umbrella, and it kind of
everything
comes
comes
down.
under intersectional feminism is woke, is this.
Wow.
So it's a massive program, and it's embedded in the UN.
Yeah. Yes. I actually have noticed that. What is the fix? I mean, because some people will say that red pill is the other side of the coin of feminism. I would disagree, but because I mean,
I'm sure just like there are some feminists who are.
Well, here's the difference, like, because there's these guys that are like really radical, right? And they just hate women now, and they are the black pill, they're the incel community, they just whatever. And I think that they were already nihilistic from to begin with.
Well, look at the incel community, what we've just talked about, traditionally that community, just the community, they're just in that hole before they've gone through that rite of passage to become a man. But for some reason online, some ideologues got hold of them and said, you shouldn't be in this, you don't deserve to be in this position. It's their fault that you're in this position, and this is, how, and so they capture all of the young minds, basically the cannon fodder. We have like kind of ideological cannon fodder these days. Our young people are ideological cannon fodder, and where in the past, they'd just be sent, over the top. Now they're just sent, I don't know, on Twitter as idiots. Or worse, okay, if they're going to gender change clinics and stuff like that and taking hormones.
Yeah, I just see it like this, like, the problems always is the individual. Like my problems, I'm always been the common denominator of my problems. The women in my life may have caused me to have more problems, but the only reason why they were able to cause me to have more problems is because I let them in my life. So do you see, like,
you've gone through a transition, you're over 30, right?
I'm 38, yeah.
Okay. So, and you've got some life experience, you've lived and you've learned, as have I. And, some people go through that and, understand that the world doesn't owe you, still doesn't owe you anything. It's kind of like you need to look within rather than without, unless you literally are, living in a tyrannical kind of state, and stuff like that, which some people still are. But in the West, we're not,
Yeah,
So,
no.
just individual responsibility and taking responsibility, and even to the degree of taking responsibility for what you write on Twitter, even, where it might be a good little shit post. I should probably apologize to Rollo because I did used to shit post a lot.
You tried to get underneath his skin to get a reaction, didn't you?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, he did one yesterday, I think, and it was about like he pissed off, I think, Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh and half of every religious community in the world with his high value, quickest way to be a high value man type of thing, But what are your thoughts on marriage today? And I really want to kind of get that understanding that, because I do align with Rollo's understanding of marriage today and the way that we do it, and how it should not be really advisable for young guys to walk in so blindly anymore.
Well, I mean, does it make any difference if you're married? Or if you're hooked up in a long-term relationship and you have children, you're de facto married.
Well, yeah, but you still could protect yourself to some degree, The
thing is, if you have kids, even if it ends up being a bad relationship, because how often do people break up with each other, even if it's gone through that natural kind of 7-year itch type thing?
Well, I think it's the cost effect, right? You got one is alimony and child support, and the other, and half of your assets being gone, and the other one is child support.
Yeah, I don't understand alimony particularly, but child support, you want to.
I totally agree with child support.
So I don't really understand the alimony kind of thing. I don't think we have alimony in England.
Oh, well, Dave, you're lucky.
But I've never been married. I've just never been able to afford it. I'm working class.
Yeah.
And I don't have a mother. Well, I have a mother, but
who you hatched?
I don't have I haven't got a father. I was orphaned when he was really young, but so there's nobody to pay for it anyway. And yeah, so just it's never been.
So I don't know what
past the age now where I could wear a fairy tale princess dress, I think.
What are the marriage laws out there? Because I'll explain the marriage laws out here.
Well,
get an idea. So
we're just introducing no fault divorce, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So the way that it is out here, right, is that let's say you're married, and and in most states it's 10 years is like the big mark. So let's say you got married and you've been married for over 10 years. And let's say one day you just woke up and you're just looking at your husband, you're like, no, I'm done. I'm out. He snores too much. His breath stinks in the morning. I'm done. And you decide to leave him. Now, he may not want, he's still in love with you. He doesn't want a divorce. But because you cannot stand the breath stinking anymore and the snoring, you are gone and you file for divorce. And now, but you haven't been working this whole time. He's been taking care of everything because that was your guys' arrangement. He wanted you at home. He's taking care of the breadwinner. Fine. You guys are happy with that. But now that you choose to leave the marriage, he now has to pay the consequence for you no longer wanting to be there. There's no fault there. There's no infidelity. There's no abuse. There's no drugs. There's no, criminal activity. You just fell out of love. And now he has to lose half of everything that he's earned and now has to pay you at the 10-year mark. If you never remarry, he has to pay you alimony for the rest of your life.
Without kids?
Yeah, without kids.
I don't know, that's bizarre.
Yeah, it's pretty. Now, if you do have kids, it's even worse because now you got alimony and child support. And only the non-custodial parent has to pay child support.
That seems to me like it's kind of like something that hasn't caught up with
the times.
The times, yeah.
Yeah.
That might have been needed, 70 years ago, maybe. When women, when middle class women didn't work, had to give up work and stuff like that.
I'll say probably like since the 70s. They probably should have changed it since then, because that's when no fault divorce was around implemented. I think it was around 70, 71, right? Well, at least in California, it was implemented, I think in 69 or something like that.
Right.
But
Oh, getting it here.
yeah, so it's like that right there is an incentive, because for women, like, because that's typically women out here in America, they file for divorce 70% of the time. There's no consequence that they have to feel for the divorce.
Yeah. I
It's
would say
actually,
that 70% of the time they probably don't do it just because his breath stinks.
no, they don't. It's probably for a little bit more than that, or they just fell out of love, or they
Well,
might
yeah,
have
I mean,
found someone
should
else.
be, that no fault kind of thing. You fall out of love, you do. You
Yeah.
fall out of love. So yeah, the fact that there's no children, you shouldn't. Unless they've been held in, I don't know, serfdom or something. You know,
It doesn't make sense,
you can.
you know.
Hmm.
And so because of these things, that's why I'm like, I can't get behind the way that we do marriage because of the way that we do divorce. I love the idea of marriage. I think that the institution of marriage is something beautiful, and what it's supposed to represent is something amazing. But the way that we do it now, without any accountability there, and when it's very one-sided,
Yeah.
takes the risk. I can't tell young men like, yeah, go ahead, go out there, find your girl and get married. I would tell them like, hey, go out there, become something, earn your income, build your life. And then if you're ready to find that person that you could afford to take care of her, or you could afford to lose everything if she chooses to leave you and you still be okay, then that's when you should do it. When you're able to mitigate the risk.
Or lobby, to change the alimony law.
That ain't happening out here. I mean, no matter, like, me and Rolo were talking about that the other day. I was messaging him. I was like, so why doesn't guys just like start protesting like women do? Like they wear the pink hats and stuff, and why don't we wear just like elephant trunk hats and go out there and start protesting for men's rights?
Really great trunk hats. Floppy trunk hats.
Floppy trunk just hanging over to the side, Why don't we go do that? Like, the Million Man March. Why don't we go do something like that to change the laws? And it's just like, well, because it's not beneficial for them. You can't. Well, out here, women outvote more than anybody. They're the higher voting classes. Women are the higher voting class in America than men.
That's. I was looking at some polls the other day in England, and it's like majority of women, certainly in their 20s. Yeah, they're voting a lot, but they're not sure why they're voting. So they're voting left wing, but when you ask why, they're not really sure why.
Well, because they heard somebody.
I think it's because it signals being a nice person, being left wing.
Yeah,
it's all signaling.
But what do you think the fix is? What do you think the fix is? I mean, from an evolutionary psychologist point of view, I think that there's a need for the red pill, in the sense to wake guys up from the fairy tale Disney-esque world that they grew up in, and realize that, what, women are just women. There's no good women, there's no bad women, they're just women, just like men are just men. There's no good men, there's no bad men, they're just men. Our behaviors is what makes us good or bad, but from the beginning we were just that. And I like to think that whatever girl that seems like a bad girl to you, she'll be a good girl to somebody else. Just depending on if you're the guy. See,
this is where evolutionary psychology would probably say, probably not. If she's bad to you, she's probably kind of, in the 5-factor kind of personality model, she's probably very high in disagreeableness. She's probably, this kind of thing. It can add, certainly is she high on psychopathy? Is she high on these? So it's, bad people or bad behaving people, promiscuous people, they tend to kind of be just those types of people, right? They're not actually flipping strategies based on who they are or who they're with.
You don't think they're chameleons? Like, you don't think that they could adapt because of somebody?
People with personality disorders certainly are chameleons.
Okay.
Then the whole point is like to manipulate and to kind of, to kind of steal. They're like energy black holes, aren't they? They just.
Yeah, they're like leeches.
But so I mean, I guess Well, it's online dating doesn't help because you can't actually, get to really know who you think,
You're looking at an avatar.
then you're in bed with them the next, day, and then
Yeah.
and then your hormones kick in and you're falling in love, and it's like, and it's just, and suddenly, and it's like, but she's, Glenn Close from or he, he's a complete nutter, and it's like, well, yeah.
But is there a solution from an evolutionary psychology position? Like, do we need to focus more on men now? Do we need to focus on like making masculinity positive again? Do we like what is the cure to here? Because we're going one way here. We're going pretty far left.
Well,
and we can't continue this course.
I think Elon taking over Twitter has changed a lot now, because that people can't weaponize language the way that they used to. So we're certainly seeing something happening there. And I think I don't think a kind of what usually happens if you're steering away from something, you oversteer, and that's you don't want to be like just be completely swerving from one to the other. So I mean, my perspective is just kind of revealing, like in my last article, a lot of people are just still completely just got their head in the clouds about what feminism is. It's like, we wouldn't these days, say, oh, he's a priest. All priests are 100%, moral and fantastic, and you can't say anything bad about it. We all know that, people in those kinds of positions can abuse their power.
Yep.
You say something like that about a feminist, and people are like, what? But she's a feminist. It's like, and it's like, well, they are abusing their power, and they're not actually helping women. They're not helping men. They're not helping anybody. And they're a minority of everybody, but they're a majority in our government, in our institutions. So just trying to kind of hammer at that. And, like my last article was just showing how they lie about rape conviction statistics.
I'm doing a documentary on that.
And that's encouraging rape. Is that better?
There we go. Go.
So it's encouraging rapists because they believe that they're only going to get caught once every 1.5% of rapes. I mean, I don't know how many rapists get away with 100 rapes.
Yeah.
But, if they were going to, they're going to think that they're only going to get arrested for that.
Have you read the book called Justice for Men?
Is that?
Or is it? I think it's the War on
War on Men. Warren Farrell.
No, it was Dr. Eric something. He was he's a criminologist, and he did this book on it. I have a copy of it. It's a really fascinating book. It's on Amazon. I'm gonna drop the link in the chat for you, because it's actually it is the book that kind of like opened my eyes to the exact like number of false allegations and false convictions and the statistics, like, because they out here they say like, well, it's only false accusations or false allegations only happen anywhere between 2 to 8%, and according to the FBI, whatever. And when it's broken down, it's like, no, that's falsely reported, because the 2 to 8% they're talking about is the 2 to 8% that the law enforcement dismisses and discards from the intake, meaning that they did the whole, taking the statement, there was no corroborating evidence, the story doesn't make sense, it's it's so far-fetched, like it's like we're not even going to push this down to the prosecutor, because there's nothing there, there's nothing to prosecute.
Right, and send me that, because I don't know about that. I do know that the the extra pair paternity that's not as bad as the ideologues like to push.
Well,
We could
you
take
guys
that-
had an issue with it out there, didn't you? You guys had the if I believe it, you guys had the what is it? It was 2014 to 2018 where you guys are paying people that were alleged rape victims. It was like a way of making an income, so to say. Isn't that what was going on out there for a while?
in England,
Yeah, in the UK.
paying people.
Like it was like not paying people like a job, but like they were given like a I don't know, like compensation for being a victim of sexual assault.
I don't know. I think,
Because I talked to one of the guys out there that was part of you guys have like different party structures out there. So we pretty much have like Republicans, Democrats, and liberals. And I forgot, he was like part of like, I want to say the Men's Rights Party. I don't know. And him and I had a nice conversation in over Zoom. And he was sharing me with the statistics out there, and what they were doing out there was that a girl could go, because rape is only considered out there, if I'm correct, male penis penetrating a woman. Out here, it's
there's been other precedents since then.
Oh, really?
There have been, certainly in common law. There's I certainly know of one instance where a girl's been convicted of rape when she facilitated
oh wow,
a man doing that as well.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I dropped the link in the private chat. So
all right, okay.
yeah, like that. It's an interesting book, and he actually kind of I think you'll find it fascinating because he highlights feminism, and he kind of like talks about how feminism has infiltrated the like the defaults law of policing, how they created the victim-centered model or victim-centered model, how they like even like the judicial system, right? Like the statistics and the graphs that they teach them, makes people always assume that, oh, he's the bad guy, and they don't go through the statistics that show that, well, women tend to be committing more domestic violence than men do, but it's just men that do more damage.
Yeah. Or lesbians. Well, lesbians.
Yeah, lesbian relationships are bad.
Yeah. Well, bi people are I think the biggest victims of domestic violence.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
they're getting jealousy from both sides. So I mean,
because they want everybody.
Yeah.
Like, they're just so damn selfish. They want all.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
But no, yeah, it's called The Judicial War on Men by Eric L. Nelson.
There will probably be some stuff in here that statistically I'll take issue with, but again, it's just that idea of kind of like just having an idea, wanting to kind of promote this kind of fairness of, it's not women that are oppressing men and men are oppressing women. It's life that is oppressing us all, rather than if we're working together on it, we can actually come up with a solution. But like you say, it's divide and conquer, because the ideologues that are kind of producing all of this discord, literally on Discord and everything, it works within it works for them to continue to do that. So it's up to us as individuals to take responsibility and stop being so reactionary, and maybe just think that if we hear a claim and just think that is ridiculous, but it's not representative of men or of women, and we just need to be a bit more.
I think that when we see like the worst bad actors and we try to label them, this is what men do, this is all men right here. No, there's a lot of men that don't operate that way. Now, just like women, we're going to the hypergamy. Every woman can be hypergamous. Doesn't mean she's going to act on it.
No.
Just like every man can be violent and force a woman to have sex without her will. Doesn't mean every man will act on it.
Yeah.
Just because we have to
protect women.
Exactly. So it's like we have these things that doesn't mean
I've
that
had bad men in my life, and I still don't blame all men for stuff like that. I've had bad women I've had more bad women in my life than bad men. So that's
me too.
Yeah,
it's like we can't be so so like absolute with these things.
Yeah, that's all my kind of basically thing with the red pill or certain kind of elements of MRAs and MGTOW and stuff like that. It's just that they're stuck on an idea and they will truck no kind of criticism on it, really, because it's a personal. It seems to be a kind of they're personally invested in it.
Well,
Whereas,
anything that you get emotionally invested in becomes a personal attack, right?
mhm.
Anything that you like really dedicate your time to and you
Yeah,
feel like a sense of identity with, you're
yeah,
gonna feel like it's in a personal attack, you
yeah.
know. So that makes sense. I like what Rolo said though, but he goes, the red pill's a praxeology, and it's not written in pen, it's written in pencil. And that means we could go back and erase it when things change, because he goes, one way of changing once the thing is observed, it changes. It's no longer the same, right? So once the thing is once the practice is observed and once you study like, oh, this is what they do, behaviors will change because now it's been observed, what's going to happen. So
Yeah.
it's not
The behavior
indifferent.
probably won't change, but what we could do is, like there's this rational male quotes thing on Twitter. We could
go down there.
you could you can have this is the proximate explanation of that kind of behavior, and additionally this is the ultimate explanation of that behavior or that propensity or that cultural phenomena. That's all that I'm adding. That's all that I would kind of want to add.
No, I think that's fair. Like that, this is approximate, and then when you dig a little deeper, this is the absolute.
Yeah.
And understand that we live in the middle of the nuance between the two. Like I think that's fair. I think the problem with what people don't like about evolutionary psychology is that we have no problem pointing out male bad behavior, but when it comes to female bad behavior, it's like taboo.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely taboo. Even though they've got no problem calling me all kinds of names and saying I'm a horrible woman.
Well, you're a cis woman. Get it right.
True.
You got that cis thing going on. Well, Paula, it has been a fascinating hour-and-a-half conversation with you.
Has it been? Oh, wow.
Yeah, I really appreciate your time, and I would love to have another one with you. Maybe I'm going to try to get a hold of Rolo and try to see if we can have a conversation. Open up some dialogue, because I would love to see you guys engage and talk science, because I'm still learning all this, and I'm finding it really fascinating.
Is a little bit more mischievous than I am in real life. So
I'll tell me you've been in all good fun, you're just sparring a little bit,
yeah.
No, I think it'll be good. I know like Rolo's partner, business partner, Michael Sartain had a podcast episode with David Buss, and that was a great episode. That was really enlightening. And I think that it would do both of you guys good for so you guys could actually have a conversation, talk about the things that you guys are aligned with, and then broaden the conversation to things that you may disagree with, just to share opposing ideas or competing theories, and kind of just get that out there to the masses, because again, we all live in this gray area. We don't live in complete binaries.
Absolutely.
So
and we're all on borrowed time.
Yeah. There's the one thing that we can never get back.
Fault.
It's my fault. Yeah.
No, it's not your fault.
Oh, it's not our fault this time.
No, it's not your fault. Not Ben's fault. That we're all gonna die
one day.
End of that.
There's no way getting around that one, right?
Okay.
Well, Paul, thank you for this wonderful conversation. You guys, Paula, do you don't have a YouTube, do you?
Not yet. I'm going to be starting up a podcast when I get off my ass and do it.
Oh, okay. You know, but you guys can find her on Twitter. She is under Sexy Isn't Sexist. At Sexy Isn't Sexist.
Yeah. And then you can find my Substack from there. It's in the link.
Yeah, her Substack is on there as well. Some good information on there. And you can find me,
feminist roasting. I do lots of feminist roasting.
Yeah, like her Instagram was hilarious. Like her feminist roast on Instagram, like a couple weeks ago, and I liked it. I hearted it. I'm like, oh my god, this is perfect. Yep. No, she has some good roasts for the feminists. It cracks me up. But yeah, guys, definitely check her out. Give her a follow. And be willing to listen to different theories and come to the conclusion yourself. Just because Paula says it or just because I say it doesn't mean it's true. You need to do your own research, your own work, and interpret things the way you do and see what you find is going to work for you. You know, do your own homework. Don't take anybody's word as 100%.
No.
Because everybody, yeah.
You're the only person in the situation you're in to know what's good for you.
Exactly. Absolutely. But until then, you guys have a good one. Good day.
Bye.
And I'll just end it real quick.